place where opinions aren't right or wrong, and where we can agree or disagree about movies, TV, and other assorted media because it's all subjective. My name is Ray. Thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be another rant episode, truthfully, and it's probably not going to be that long, but I was going to go in a completely different direction with what I was going to say in this particular episode, but no, I saw something that really just kind of stoked my energy on this, so yeah, I'm going to get into it, and it has to do with the misconception of what is actually killing movie theaters and, what could ultimately be the death of them, and it's not streaming because streaming gets framed for that on a regular basis. No, it's actually something far more destructive and privileged in that regard. And I'll get into it here in just a bit. But before diving into that, I want to remind everybody listening to this show, especially if you're a first-time listener, that you can find this show and all of my other shows at theflightcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. That means Apple Podcasts, that means the Flightcast YouTube channel, that means Spotify, that means Pandora, or wherever you get your podcast. You can find this show on Monday nights. You can find Flightbox on Wednesday nights. Be prepared for this Wednesday. We're talking season finale of Daredevil Born Again, season 1. Yeah, should be a doozy. We'll see if it sticks to landing. It's been absolutely impeccable so far. We will find out. Tomorrow night, everybody will watch it, and then the following Wednesday, I will watch it, and I will give my honest, spoiler-filled thoughts on it in the next episode of Flightbox. That'll be Wednesday, and then Friday Flight is our listener feedback show, where all of you send in your emails and your correspondence, and we talk about the movies, TV, and other sort of media and other geeky things that you want to talk about for the week. And also stay tuned this weekend for a special flight review because there is a movie that comes out this weekend that I definitely am going to be seeing. I think Shonda and I are definitely going to be seeing this one. Ryan Coogler's Sinners, which Ryan Coogler might actually come up in tonight's episode with respect to ranting, if you will, but maybe not in the way that you think and maybe in a way that you're dreading that I'm going to mention it. But it's going to be nothing but the truth as far as I'm concerned. But his new movie, Sinners, which is so far impeccably ranked on the hell site that is Rotten Tomatoes, comes out this weekend, and I definitely want to see it. I was already intrigued about it, but yeah, the buzz is starting to really pick up for it, and I want to check it out. So I will be doing a special episode of Flight Review this upcoming weekend, which, for those of you that celebrate Easter, it's an interesting time for the movie Sinners to come out, right? Especially on Good Friday. Yeah, how about that? That's a little bit of a weird juxtaposition. That's my inner Catholic, my recovering Catholic coming out in me, if you will. But stay tuned for that episode of Flight Review this upcoming weekend. We'll be dropping that after we see the film. And of course, I want to take a moment to thank all the supporters of patreon.com/theflightcast. Thank you so much for your continued support. Hope you're enjoying the bonus content that has been ramping up in the last couple of weeks. I've been doing episodes of Flight Review, talking about the movies that all of you have more than likely seen that I have not seen yet. And so far, I have reviewed Hellraiser, I have reviewed Dunkirk, I have reviewed Soul from Pixar, and just recently I reviewed Uncle Buck on Sunday, because I'd never seen that. I've seen damn near every John Hughes movie except that one and a couple of others. So now I finally saw that one, and I gave my honest, spoiler-filled thoughts with respect to that 30-plus-year-old movie that I didn't grow up with, or I did grow up with, but I didn't see it when I was younger. So you can listen to all of that, plus other bonus content that is available at patreon.com/theflightcast if you are a flight officer. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much to those of you who might want to sign up for support. I will tell you that the next movie that I watch, the next flight review, this is a movie that technically I think is older than me, and it has a very special significance with respect to the proximity of the date in which I will be releasing the review. It is a very somber day, if you will, upcoming, and it's musically inclined. If you are a fan of music, if you're a fan of musical artists, one particular indelible, unforgettable musical artist in particular, then you might know in less than a week there's an anniversary coming up. It's a somber anniversary of a very unfortunate event that occurred unbelievably 9 years ago to the day, in just under a week here. And there's a movie involving this particular music figure that I have never watched, but I own it because it came out on 4K Steelbook last year, and I will be watching it for the first time, and that will be my next definitive episode of Flight Review. I got to find a way to watch some other stuff for Flight Review, like during the week or whatnot. But that's going to be the next big one that I'm teasing for this upcoming Sunday, which will be Easter Sunday. Yeah, it'll drop either on that day or on Monday. I haven't entirely figured out which one, but that's the next big episode of Flight Review coming up on Patreon. So stay tuned for that as well. It's going to be a heavy one, or at least it'll be a heavier subject, especially if you are a massive fan of the particular musical artist in question, whose anniversary of a particular event is coming up in the next week or so. Believe me, if you know, you know. And if you don't know, you will find out soon enough. Don't worry about that. But stay tuned for that at patreon.com/theflightcast. Thank you again to all of you who support the website and all of you who are very loyal, devoted patrons. I cannot thank you enough for your support. All right, let's get into it. Because lately, rant mode engage, first of all. Click. All right. Lately, the conversation has popped up yet again, and it always, pops up with respect to box office. And I saw an article earlier today talking about, what was it? Another article alleging that when original movies are released in theaters, we don't go and see them. So it's no wonder that these studios always revert back to the big franchises, right? Wall Street Journal, yes, what a devoted and what an honorable publication. No, not anymore. But Hollywood went big on original movies after years of cranking out franchises. Those films are now hitting theaters and so far have been flops. And this is written by Ben Fritz. Those of you who were part of the Release the Snyder Cut movement probably recognize that name because he's the one that wrote the hit piece that was supposed to kill the Snyder Cut from ever being released back in 2019. I think it was supposed to be this big expose. We thought it was going to be, we were deluded. We were goaded into believing that it was going to be a piece that was going to support the Snyder Cut's release, and it turned out to be a complete hit job on the fan base, and basically the first time that we were branded as complete delusional idiots for wanting this thing to see the light of day. So this moron has decided to come up with another piece, and that he wrote that, wasn't that for the Washington Post? Maybe it was for the Wall Street. I forget who he wrote it for. But let's just dive into a little bit of his silly piece here. He says, when director Christopher Landon introduced his new thriller, Drop, before its premiere at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood's Walk of Fame, he had a warning for the packed auditorium. It's really hard out there for an original movie, he said, urging everyone who liked the Universal's picture release to scream it from the rooftops and on social media. We'll get to screaming here in a little bit. It says Drop opened this weekend to an estimated 7.5 million domestically, one of two new movies based on fresh ideas that fizzled at the box office. The other was Disney's The Amateur, a spy thriller adapted from a little-known 1981 book which opened to an estimated 15 million. After years of gripes from average moviegoers and Hollywood insiders alike about the seemingly nonstop barrage of sequels, spin-offs, and adaptations of comic books and toys, the film industry placed more bets on original ideas. The results, he says, have been ugly. Nearly every movie released by a major studio in the past year based on an original script or a little-known book has been a box office disappointment. Before this weekend's flops were Warner Bros. Discovery's Mickey 17 and the Alto Knights, Paramount's Novocaine, Apple's Fly Me to the Moon, Amazon's Red One, and the independently financed Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1 and Megalopolis. Jason Blum, who produced Drop and built his company Blumhouse largely on original horror franchises, said audiences' preference for known properties has made it harder to release original movies in theaters, even though that's where some of the most exciting and risky storytelling still lives. And it says need for advertising. Getting people into theaters more frequently is a priority for a movie industry still recovering from the pandemic. Box office revenue in the first 3 months of this year in the U.S. and Canada was the lowest it has been, excluding the pandemic, since 1996. At the CinemaCon industry convention in early April, theater owners said they welcome more original films, but only if they are backed by robust advertising campaigns. Building buzz for a new film in a media environment fractured between YouTube, TikTok, streaming, and sports is tough, particularly when it is an unknown title. Quote, we're opening films that have almost zero awareness, said Bill Barstow, president of Main Street Theaters, a small Nebraska-based chain. It says many consumers are content to wait until an original motion picture is available to rent online a few weeks after its theatrical release or to stream on a service like Netflix in a few months. And then it says creating new franchises. where it says the only films succeeding in the current environment are those with built-in audiences, like a Minecraft movie, which was released in early April and has grossed more than 280 million domestically. And these days, even franchises can be far from a sure thing. Long-running series such as Marvel and DC superheroes and live-action remakes of Disney animated classics are showing their age and proving unreliable at the box office. Studios say they have little choice but to make more original movies they hope will buck the odds. Telling original stories and taking risks is the only path toward creating new global franchises, Bill Damashki, Warner Brothers head of animation, said at CinemaCon. Some of the increase in original film releases is attributable to Apple and Amazon, this piece says, which are building film businesses with few well-established franchises. One of the biggest bets on an original film from any company is this year's Apple's F1, a June release starring Brad Pitt as a race car driver. It says Amazon hyped 11 coming movies to exhibitors at CinemaCon, of which 6 were originals. Among traditional studios, Warner Brothers has taken the most risk on originals, with big-budget films from director Paul Thomas Anderson and Maggie Gyllenhaal. Hollywood's next original release comes Friday, as I mentioned earlier, with Warner's Sinners, a horror movie starring Michael B. Jordan. Next month, even Marvel, home to Hollywood's biggest franchises, is taking a gamble with Thunderbolts about a super team brand new to all but the most devoted comic book readers. All right. So that's the entirety of Ben Fritz's piece from the Wall Street Journal. And I read all of that because, to be very honest with you, it reads as though the studios told him to write it this way. And I don't mean in terms of the parts where you have the little exhibitors and the little parts of the studio saying, Bill Damashki saying, well, we've got to take more of a risk on original content because these franchises aren't holding up. No, here's the problem. The problem is that pieces like this and individuals like Ben Fritz, they only scratch the surface with respect to the real issue. And when it comes to these movies being released, right? And we love to sit on social media and blame each other for, you want more original movies, but then when they come out, you don't go see them. Well, here's the problem. The problem is that when you're pointing the finger at other people like us for not going to see these movies, you're just doing the Spider-Man meme. And it does nothing, because when we talk about ourselves, what have I said many times with respect to the size of the audience compared to the size of fan bases? We are 5 to 10% of the total audience if we are lucky. These original movies don't need to be marketed toward us. They need to be marketed toward the general audience. And let's really be honest with each other here. Let's ask ourselves, if these movies like Drop and Red 1 and Mickey 17 and Alto Nights and Fly Me to the Moon and Novocaine, how many of these movies are truly being heavily marketed to the general audience the same way that franchise movies are? Are they really? Are they really? Do you think that Novocaine and Mickey 17 got the same marketing budget as any of the Marvel films, whether it was Captain America Brave New World or even Thunderbolts right now? Like, do we see the same effort? Do we see the same energy? Do we see the same press tours? No, we don't. No, we do not. At least not from my perspective. And every time one of these original movies come out, I ask somebody, hey, you go see that new Robert Pattinson movie? What new Robert Pattinson movie? Mickey 17. Oh, never heard of it. Didn't know it was out. This consistently happens, and I could go down the list of any of these movies, even Megalopolis. And I know Megalopolis, got very poorly reviewed, with respect to, that particular film. But still, the general audience is the one that needs to be made aware of this. And the studios, historically speaking, do not do a good job of marketing original films. They don't. If they did, then they would see more returns. Right? This isn't just simply a case of, oh, well, we're taking these huge bets and they're not working out. No, you're not doing enough to help it work out. Like, you need to do more. Like, where is the outreach? Where is the social media presence? It's not there the same way that it is when it's Batman, the same way that it is when it's Superman, the same way that it is when it's the Avengers, right? The same way that all the Hall H stuff, the Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom reveal, like, you don't ever think of doing something like that for original properties. You don't, right? And quite honestly, these movies need that type of hype. They need that type of energy. If anything, those types of movies need more hype and marketing than the big franchises, right? Because the franchises have built-in fan bases. You have built-in marketing in that regard. Now, that doesn't mean that you should just skimp out on marketing for Marvel movies or for DC movies, but it does mean that these original movies are going to need a little bit more effort. Because if they're original properties that we've never heard of, how in the hell is the general audience supposed to be even aware of it if we're barely aware of it? If it's something that we just found out about. So these studios are they're not pulling their weight with respect to that. And all of the onus has got to be put back on us because apparently we're not the ones tuning out or turning out to see these original films. I don't know how Sinners is going to do. I don't. I really have no idea. Maybe it will join the list of flops like Mickey 17 and Red 1 and Fly Me to the Moon and all the others. I don't know. But it's going to come down to whether or not Warner Brothers marketed it properly. And, where is from the director of Black Panther? Where's that marketing? Is that out there? Anybody see that TV spot out there? Because I don't know that I've seen that, truthfully. But you need to be attaching this to your bigger franchises. It's a director that literally directed two movies that have grossed over $2 billion for your franchise, right? Black Panther did more than $1 billion. Wakanda Forever did over 800 million. So it's either just under 2 billion or it's over 2 billion, right? Either way, big money maker. Why are you not pushing this, right? Oh, because it's Marvel and he's doing this for Warner Bros. It doesn't matter, right? Like you're doing the same thing for James Gunn from the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, right? You're doing that for Superman, for all the Superman ads. I've seen that before. You need to do the exact same thing for Ryan Coogler in that regard, right? If you're not doing that, or if you're not doing it for Bong Joon-ho, did you let people know? Snowpiercer or Parasite, right? Like where was the big advertising blitz for that? Maybe you saw it in a couple of TV spots here and there. I didn't see a ton of advertising for Mickey 17. I knew about it because I saw a trailer and because I like Bong Joon-ho and I like Robert Pattinson and the movie looked interesting to me. That's the extent of it. But if that's the extent that I saw, what did the general audience see? Probably less. So these studios are not footing the bill with respect to marketing presence for these original films, and then they're blaming it on us like, oh, you only want to see Marvel films. You only want to see franchise films. Bullshit. I mean, granted, we do want to see those, but the general audience is the one that you need to be appealing to. And how is it that you understand that when it comes to these franchises, but you don't understand that when it comes to original films, especially when we haven't even heard of a lot of these original film ideas, and the general audience has, because there's no built-in fan base with respect to that. And the moment you try to put it back on studios or the moment you try to put it back on, hey, we're not enough, right, in that regard, that's when people automatically grasp for the streaming excuse. I've heard that a lot. But Fritz even said it in a stupid-ass article about how, well, people would rather wait for it to be rented online. They'd rather, I wonder why. They don't know. Like, they don't have, there's no hype built for it, right? You have to get people hyped up. If you know that they have to get hyped up for a Marvel movie, for a DC movie, why wouldn't you think they need to be hyped up about Mickey 17? Why would you think they don't need to be hyped up about Fly Me to the Moon or Red 1 or Sinners? They need to be hyped up even more for those movies. So why are you dropping the ball on that and then putting the onus on us like we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing as an audience? It's ridiculous. It's passing the buck. It's a lack of accountability, which, surprise, a lack of accountability from studios. And it's not the entirety of the equation. Yes, people do still need to show up, but a little more effort on the marketing and the hype for these original films instead of just resting on your laurels and acting like, oh, it'll just do what it does with the little amount of marketing that we give it. It's ridiculous. Knock that off. But then that just leads us to the elephant in the room when it comes to one of the most detrimental causes of theater degradation, if you will. The real number one public enemy of why people may not go to the movie theaters anymore. It's not streaming. It's not, wanting to, waiting a week or however long for these things to be available to rent online. And it's not lack of marketing in that regard, right? The number one enemy potentially for theater going at this point can be summed up with two words: chicken jockey. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that because that bullshit is absolutely enraging. For people who don't know, the Minecraft movie. Anybody see the Minecraft movie? Anybody intending to see the Minecraft movie? I am not, and I'll tell you why I'm not. Because this chicken jockey bullshit is off the charts. It is utterly ridiculous, and it is the height of destructive, insane behavior that honestly should have people locked in jail and throw away the key. This is beyond just simply talking in a movie theater. This is beyond simply being drunk or annoying. No, these are kids that are openly yelling, screaming, throwing popcorn all over the place. Somebody actually brought a live chicken into the damn theater. There's video of this. Go look at Good Morning America story. All of this over the Minecraft movie, because apparently there's something in the game Chicken Jockey where a kid rides a zombie chicken or something. I don't know. I don't play Minecraft. But the fact of the matter is this has been happening all over the country. I heard that it happened even locally where I live, just south of where I live in a theater in Royal Oak, Michigan, that apparently, that occurred, like the kids went nuts, threw popcorn all over the place, made a giant mess, were being destructive. And apparently the theater owner, allegedly, I don't know this for a fact, but I was told the theater owner actually, had some gumption and some spine and made the kids clean the mess up in that regard. Yeah, absolutely. But other than that, I've seen cases where the police have escorted these kids out to the parking lot. But that's what the story says. Kids escorted out to the parking lot for being destructive assholes in the middle of a movie. Now, I've talked about how when it comes to like packed houses on opening night and loud crowds, I've talked about my feelings on that. This, the whole stuff with the Marvel movies, right? When you see all these videos of people cheering at Avengers like it's a damn football game, like, oh, we're rooting things on. Right? No, you're there to see a movie. You're indoors. You're there to see a film. You can have some excitement. You can have some cheers here and there. But being that loud and being that rowdy, beyond unacceptable. And it's not just a generational thing, right? People want to act like, oh, this is just, kids being silly. No, it's well beyond that. It's kids being misbehaved. It's kids that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground and their parents have failed them. That's what it truly is. Yeah, I'm going there with it. Most certainly I am. Because if you're going to act a damn fool in public in a movie theater to that degree, and then take it even further, like several levels further, to this degree of destruction. And you're not just destroying property, you're not just making a mess for those theater workers, you're also creating a hostile environment for anybody else that brought their kids to see the damn movie in the first place. Because as the Fritz piece said, Minecraft does have a built-in audience, and a lot of them are kids. A lot of them are kids that beg their mom and dad to come see that, take them to go see that movie. And then they go to see the movie and they get besieged with all manner of teeny boppers and idiots that just wanted to turn this into worse than the Rocky Horror Picture Show. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is understandable because that's part of the experience. It's designed that way. You're supposed to respond in that manner. And even that, because I've been to a couple of those, even that is more civil. Even that is more on the level, not just because it's accepted and designed, but also just in terms of the behavior. There's an actual theater component to it. This is bullshit. This is acting like a complete hooligan. And there's no excuse for it. There's absolutely none whatsoever. You can't dismiss this. But apparently, the director of said Minecraft movie, Jared Hess, is completely okay with it. Got a quote here that says he has been buoyed by the overall reaction, however, describing it as, quote, a true party. He says just the fact that people are making memories at the movies, that's what it's all about. That's why we do it. I never could have anticipated this level of passion and fun and craziness that's happening. Asked whether he approved of throwing popcorn, he replied, no one's going to get hurt from popcorn. Look, when I go to the movies with my kids, it's like a popcorn massacre that happens, and they're not throwing anything, but it ends up on the ground regardless. And then he went further and said, it's funny because I think it's just literally cheering and throwing popcorn, which is so funny to me that cops are getting called for popcorn. Yeah, it's hilarious. I've seen so many funny videos. It's great, especially when people are climbing on their friends' shoulders and standing up and cheering for those moments. It's like this crazy anticipation. But man, I'm just glad people are making memories with their friends and families. Okay, Jared Hess, here's the problem. Actually, there's many problems with what you said. There's a massive problem with what you said, but let's just start from the whole idea of, oh, I'm just glad people are making memories with their friends and families. Now, I realize that you are coming from the position of the fact that this movie is automatically the most successful movie you've ever made, right? It's made over $500 million for Warner Brothers in the first 10 days of release. They're not going to do anything to you. They're not going to say anything to you because right now you're keeping them afloat. They haven't had a good couple of years. We all know the financials. We're all aware of the situation that all the studios have found themselves in as far as being in the red post not only the pandemic, post 2020, but also the strikes that were their fault. The studio owners, right? The strikes were their fault last year, and they have been bleeding money ever since. And all of them are making all these deals and all these positioning, and there's mergers and whatnot occurring to try and stave all of that off. And so they've been hurting. They've all been hurting on some level at the box office. And right now, Jared Hess is the Warner Brothers darling because he is saving their bacon at the moment. Minecraft has been a massive success. It has brought them a boatload of money So that means he's insulated financially, right? And it also means that career-wise, he's going to be insulated from all the suits in Hollywood because now he's going to get the treatment like, not I can't call it the Greta Gerwig treatment because she's a woman and they still will restrict the hell out of her. But in his case, he can be elevated. Now studios will trust him because look at how much he made on the Minecraft movie. But here's the problem, Jared. If you encourage behavior like this in your theaters, then guess what's not going to happen? A lot of families and a lot of moms and dads that wanted to take their kid to the Minecraft movie are not going to see another flippin' thing you make. And if they hear this from you, if they know that you said this, if they know that you're encouraging behavior that might have spooked or scared the living shit out of any of their kids, they're going to want to flip you off. They're going to want to punch you in the face. They're not going to want to deal with any of your movies whatsoever. And that's not going to be good for you when you try to make more movies. Now, I don't know what other movies. Jared Hess is not a director that I'm personally familiar with, but it's a name that I've seen on social media that other people have talked about with respect to his other films. Let's see. What else did he make? Jared and Jerusha Hess. Okay, so husband and wife. I gotcha. All right. So filmography. Let's see. Oh, okay. Here we go. Napoleon Dynamite. All right. That's maybe the only movie. No, that is the only movie that he's directed that I've actually seen. Napoleon Dynamite. He also did Nacho Libre, Gentlemen Broncos, Don Verdine, Masterminds, and Thelma the Unicorn before he did a Minecraft movie. Okay, so he's the Napoleon Dynamite guy. All right, fine. Whatever. I've seen that movie. I watched that movie when it came out. It was all right. I thought it got massively overhyped, but that's just my own subjective opinion. My point is that this doesn't endear Mr. Hess to any of the family audience that, just wanted to take their kids to see the damn Minecraft movie innocuously, and their kid not only got pelted with popcorn, but also probably got yelled and screamed at. The sensory overload that a kid can definitely experience. Adults can experience sensory overload. I know a damn kid is going to experience sensory overload, but there's a bigger issue here with what Jared Hess has said. And that bigger issue prompts me to give you this hypothetical. Just bear with me on this one. Think about this for a second, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you that are listening to this. Just imagine that this is, 7 years ago. Let's say instead of it being April 2025, let's say it's February 2018. And let's say instead of the Minecraft movie, it's Black Panther. And let's say that on opening weekend, there is a trend that starts with Black Panther called Wakanda Forever. And all it is black kids from, all the schools. Remember all the black kids that came from the schools and took field trips to go see this movie? All it is them standing in a theater and chanting Wakanda Forever whenever somebody says it in the theater. Let's say that happened. Let's say there was no popcorn thrown. Let's say there were no yelling and screaming. All it was them crossing their arms and saying Wakanda Forever. Don't tell me that if that had happened, that this wouldn't be reported a little bit differently. Remember how many police that were at theaters for Joker when they were worried about the incels messing with theaters because of a couple of incidents at theaters across the country? There would be SWAT teams out in front of these movie theaters, taking these kids away to whatever detention centers holding or whatever, right? Ryan Coogler would be arrested for inciting a riot, and there would be no Wakanda Forever sequel whatsoever. And that movie would get branded as domestic terrorist schlock. Don't tell me that it wouldn't. You might think that that's extreme, but think of the world that we live in today and tell me that if this wasn't black kids and a black director, that it wouldn't be treated that way. You know it would. And that's how you know that this behavior is absolutely reprehensible. There's no excuse for it whatsoever. Because if you flip the script on that, you understand the privilege that Jared Hess is experiencing here, that he is exhibiting in this regard. He can say what he said because he's a 45-year-old white male director from Glendale, Arizona, that just made Warner Brothers $500 million in its first 10 days of release. He can say whatever the hell he wants because he's financially insulated and he's socially insulated from any backlash from him saying that. He can absolutely, basically what he said was boys will be boys. That is essentially what he said with respect to this chicken jockey bullshit. Boys will be boys. And he's so glad that they can share memories. Yeah, that's extremely tone deaf, Jared Hess. 1,000%. If that were any of your 4 children in the theater, you were a shitty parent if you take your kid to any of your 4 kids to Minecraft the movie and you just You tell them to suck it up when all these other kids decided, all these other white kids, because that's what it is in the videos, right? Look at the videos. Did any brown kids doing this? No, there aren't. It's all these younger white kids that are throwing the popcorn and that are being ridiculous, right? Yeah, this is the truth, guys. This isn't me, like picking at a situation here. This is real. If you're telling me a situation like this in reverse, like reverse, if you will, as silly as that term can be to refer to race and ethnicity, you're telling me that if brown kids did this at a brown movie, not even the entirety of this, like I said, all it would have to be is them chanting Wakanda forever in the theater every time somebody said it on the movie, in the movie itself. This would be a completely different reported story. Good Morning America would report it differently. All of the outlets would report it differently. Fox News would be, oh my goodness, the evil Ryan Coogler inciting violence at a Marvel film when families are trying to. And don't tell me it wouldn't happen, because all it would take is just one Karen in that movie theater to make a phone call or to complain, and half that theater would get arrested. That's not happening here. I wonder why. Right? Why are these kids being escorted to the parking lot? Why are they not being taken away? Why are their parents not being? Why is there no like remanding of custody? Why is there no actual charges being pressed? Right? There's warnings. These exhibitors are saying warning. Like putting warnings at the beginning of the film, like any destruction of property, any like disruption of the movie going experience will result. Charges will be pressed if there's damage found. Right? And it doesn't take much for there to be damage found, but it's not just physical damage that can happen to the movie theater, it's psychological damage. Because imagine that you're one of the workers that's making minimum wage or less at one of these theaters, whatever theater chain it is, and you're the one that has to deal with that bullshit afterwards. I've seen the pictures, I've seen the videos. It's insane. People are already nasty and disgusting and lazy enough at movie theaters with respect to what they do with popcorn and soda and nachos and whatever else they eat within the course of a 2.5 hour long movie. This trend is even worse because it's all over the place, and it is a giant flippin' mess. And it's entitlement and it's privilege at the highest point. And these kids are getting nothing but a slap on the wrist, and the director of the movie is telling them, boys will be boys. Yeah, that's not acceptable. And that is more than enough to push people away from going to the movie theater, even more than streaming, even more than bad marketing for these original films. That's the number one culprit right there. Because all it takes is for one family to get burned that badly about a Minecraft movie experience, and they'll never go to the theater again. They'll never take their kids to see a movie at the theater again. They will gleefully wait for streaming at that point, because there's no way that they're going to go to the theater. They're going to spend their hard-earned money and waste their hard-earned time dealing with assholes that want to bring live chickens and dump it. Live chickens? This is insanity. Utter insanity. And it's emblematic of the world that we live in. And this is definitely one of those times where the craziness of the world that we live in intersects with movies, TV, and other assorted media. And it's gone too far. It's gone way too far. Jared Hess should be ashamed of himself for defending this bullshit. I don't care how happy he is that the Minecraft movie is making money. I don't care how happy he is to be insulated like this. This is white privilege. It's 100% white male privilege for him to be saying this. And you can agree or disagree with me on that as much as you like. If you think that I'm completely off base, if you think I'm way out of line, that's your business. But you're going to sit there and watch one of those videos and tell me that there's any justification for that behavior? No, you can't. If you can, then you have an issue. You really do. Because there's no justification whatsoever for that. And again, flip the script. Make those kids brown and make it a brown director. And it's a whole different story. You can't possibly tell me with a straight face that it won't be. You can't tell me that it would be covered differently. You can't tell me that it would be handled differently by the theater goers, by the exhibitors themselves, and most importantly, law enforcement. It would most certainly be treated differently. That's life in America, even when going to see a movie. So, the thing is, I saw a post about this on Threads, and I wasn't even going to go this route with it. I was just going to talk about how ridiculous the chicken jockey situation was. But then I saw somebody post about that, and they made an excellent point. This was a post on Threads that I saw earlier today, where somebody basically said everything that I just said with respect to, I just know if this had been black teenagers throwing popcorn, screaming, tearing seats off the hinges, and bringing live animals to Black Panther, all while shouting Wakanda forever, Good Morning America would report it very differently. Also, everyone would be under arrest. Oh, did hell yes. Come on now. we can be real here. We can have an honest conversation about this, people. We know that he's telling the truth. We know that there are no lies detected with respect to this. And that's how you know it's reprehensible behavior. That's how you know that there's no justification for this. There's no excuse for this. There is no boys will be boys. There is no kids will be kids. This is unacceptable. This is beyond unacceptable. And there's no way that it should be allowed. And if this is what kills movie theaters, kids being assholes and ruining it for everybody else, then people like Jared Hess have no one to blame but themselves. And the exhibitors won't be happy about it because they'll lose money, and they'll, more of their theaters will go out of business, and it'll be even tougher for them because stuff like this is being enabled, right? If I were a theater owner, I would be pissed at Jared Hess right now. I would not be happy that he's sticking up for anybody that even remotely, tries any of this shit. It's unacceptable. It's depraved. It's illegal. There's nothing right about it, nothing whatsoever, and that will kill theater going far quicker than streaming, far quicker than bad marketing. That will kill theater going much faster because all it takes is one of those stupid chicken jockey incidents to piss off a parent, to piss off an uncle or anybody else taking their kids to go see it, and they'll never go see a movie again. They'll never go to the theater ever again. They will, like I said, gleefully wait for streaming in that regard. And I know Warner Brothers doesn't care right now because they're making $500 million on Minecraft movie and they're not seeing a lack of return on their investment, but they'll care down the road when this pisses enough theater goers off. And also when it, you think the workers of the theaters are going to put up with this shit for that much longer? I mean, this is only Minecraft. What happens when the next viral social media trend happens for another movie? Whatever it is, it could be anything, right? It doesn't have to be Minecraft. At this point, it could be anything with Jack Black and Jason Momoa in it. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Like, the next time another social media trend like this erupts and causes a headache for moviegoers and people working at movie theaters, there's only so much that people are going to take before they just say, screw you, I'm not going back. Or, screw you, I quit. And now you're looking for workers that are going to clean up that bullshit-ass mess that you defended that was happening in your theaters. So, whatever, just needed to rant about that and get that off my chest because, man, that is just beyond insane. Absolutely indefensible, whatever, argue with the wall. Or, you know what, I would love to hear anybody that has a rationalization for this. If anybody here, and I don't think anybody here does, but if anybody listening to this has an actual rationalization for this, oh, I'm dying to hear it. I would love to have a discussion about this because I cannot think of a rational defense for this type of depraved behavior whatsoever. I don't give a shit how old you are. I don't care how young you are. I don't care how uninitiated to the world you are. There's no justification whatsoever. This is 1000% bullshit. These kids should be spending a night in jail to learn a lesson, and then they should be getting the hell torn out of them by their parents after that. But instead of this whole boys will be boys crap from the director and everybody else. Whatever. Before I sign off for this week's episode, there is one other little mini rant that I want to get into, and it has to do with spoilers, particularly set photo spoilers, because there have been a couple that have been making the rounds. A set of set photos that are real, or at least I'm fairly certain that they're real, and then another set photo that I'm pretty sure is not real. But even if it is, it's still a problem. First of all, with respect to set photos that I'm talking about, there are set photos that have popped up from Supergirl, which appear to, not very clearly, but very fuzzily show Millie Alcock in the new outfit, right? And look, from what I can tell, I've looked at the pictures. I do not share these pictures, but I've looked at them myself, and I will say that how the costume looks, assuming that these pictures are real, does not surprise me. I will just say that. I will not give anything away with respect to how I think it looks or whatever. I'm not going to do that. But I will just say that these photos, if they're real, the costume looks as I expect it to look. But the thing is, warnings went out, and Phil, I appreciate the warning, Phil. I think I'd already seen them by the time you had sent your warning on Instagram, but I do appreciate the thought. And I'm one of those that, like, when I hear that set photos have been leaked, my impatience kicks in, and I just go, what the hell? I just want to see it. I don't share it, right? And that's the thing. Set photos, as I've said many times before, are spoilers. They're not officially released. So what you are sending or what you're sharing out there is 1000% a spoiler. So when all of these little regurgitators and all these other accounts that are looking for engagement bait, when they throw the picture out there and go, "Hey, what are your thoughts on this?" Yeah, you're instantly blocked because you're sharing a spoiler. Unless it's officially released, there's no reason to be sharing a set photo. There just isn't. There really isn't. And I had people that want to do it, and I know this is definitely going to be an argument because I know there are people that justify sharing set photos because there are people just like me that do believe in the controlled leak, and that's where we get into this other particular set photo, this other alleged photo that allegedly is out there of Robert Downey Jr. as the design of what he's going to look like as Doctor Doom in Avengers Doomsday. And I don't buy it for 1 second. But here's the problem. For all the people that think it's real, for all the people that think it's legitimate, for all the people that are sharing it all across social media, you're sharing a spoiler. If it's real, right? You're either sharing a lie or you're sharing a spoiler. Neither are good, okay? It's just like what I say about Scooper Madness. At best, they're spoilers. At worst, they're liars, right? Neither one is good. Like, it's not good to be a spoiler. It's not good to be a liar. Why would you want to lie to people or spoil things for them? You're ruining the experience for everybody else one way or the other. So this idea that you're just going to share these set photos and be like, or these set photos, real or not, you're just going to share them across the internet and be like, "Hey, what do you guys think about this?" It's bullshit. You don't deserve follows. You don't deserve people like paying attention to your content because you're talking about stuff that is openly spoiling the situation here, and you're screwing with the studio's marketing. And you can sit there and go, "Well, they should have been more careful to not allow paparazzi photos." Oh, bullshit. Okay, they have to shoot outside. There has to be. They try and guard as best as they can from people like you and Canadagraphs and everybody else and paparazzi to try to snap these photos and get like hundreds of dollars for them and like get the social media content stirred up so that people will go to your website and give you the traffic and the clicks that you so desperately want because we're all attention whores on social media. But there's only so much that they can do. And at the end of the day, as an audience, it's like, do you want everything spoiled for you? Do you want everything shown to you beforehand? Or do you want some surprises to be left up to that opening night? There is an entire culture devoted to making certain that you know any and everything about a film before you even see the damn thing. So whatever genuine experience, whatever organic experience you could possibly have on opening night, ruined on some level. And that doesn't mean you won't enjoy the movie. It just means that you're going to go into it with a lot more knowledge than the makers of the film actually intended you to have. If DC Studios wanted us to have an official image of Millie Alcock's Supergirl outfit, they would have given us one by now. They don't, because it's not time for that yet. We're still in the middle of hyping up Superman. That movie, remember that one? Comes out in less than 3 months on July 11th. We're still looking for official story trailers for that film. You guys are already skipping ahead to Supergirl because it's in production. You want to know everything. You're impatient. I get it. Fans are impatient. That's still no excuse for sharing photos that are clearly spoilers. And again, those are probably spoilers. The other shit with Robert Downey Jr., probably a lie. But even if it isn't a lie, it's still a spoiler. There's nothing okay with that. There's absolutely no justification for that either. Now, if you were in a private group, if you're in a private discourse, if you're somewhere else not in public, like you don't have hundreds or thousands of followers that will immediately get notified or see what it is that you posted when you put up the said photo. If you're not one of these regurgitators that does that, that's one thing. If you're having a conversation, like if the DCU leaks subreddit, okay, if you're in there, you've got to go into that Reddit, you've got to go into that sub in order to actually see it. And even then, I think it has like the spoiler tag warning, so you won't even see it in the thumbnail, right? Okay, that's one thing, having a private conversation. But posting it on Threads, posting it on Facebook, posting it on Instagram, and going, "Hey, what do you guys think?" That's a bullshit move. It is. It's a bullshit move. And it means that you don't care about spoiling anybody on something that they may not want to see until they see it officially. Because yes, they're going to see it before the movie comes out, but they want to wait to see it until an official photograph comes out. We've been down this road before. Remember when every DCEU like costume in the book was soundly critiqued by everyone going, well, look at this set photo of Shazam's costume. The texture looks all wrong, and the cape's not in the right place, and this is the wrong color. I can't believe they would do this. And it was a blurry-ass photo of Zachary Levi's dumbass on set. And stuff like that prompted Warner Brothers at the time, under that ridiculous regime that they had back then, to post the official photo of him, drinking the Slurpee in the costume so we can get an official look at it. Now, that's what you're trying to do by sharing these set photos. You're trying to force them in to sharing an original photo. That's bullshit. Because that's studio manipulation, and that's you being impatient, looking for attention, being an attention whore. You're basically using your attention whorishness to try and influence the studio further than they're already influenced by whatever it is that you're doing. And they shouldn't be influenced by anything that you're doing because you're a fickle-ass fan that really doesn't know any better in that regard. Anybody that tries to do this. But it's ridiculous. You don't have any patience. You don't have any regard for anybody else. You're just going to throw all this out there. Now, there is still the responsibility on our end. If we don't want to see spoilers, we don't have to get on threads. Yes, I know. We don't have to get on social media. We don't have to be on it all the time. We don't have to check our phones. Yes, I get that. There is a personal responsibility for that. That does not make you any less of an asshole for sharing spoilers or lies. It doesn't. Most certainly does not. So guess what? It's a combo meal. People can stay off of social media and stay away from it as much as they want to in order to guard against it, but you can also, not get out from being a complete asshole for sharing it in the first place, because that is essentially what you're doing. You are sharing an open spoiler, and this is why I will never share set photos, whether they are real or not, because I am not interested in having that type of a discussion. I don't have those types of discussions where I send you a blurry photo and go, hey, what do you guys think of this blurry ass photo of Supergirl? Or I send you something that, as far as I'm concerned, is clearly a fake of Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom and going, hey, you know what? They're saying this is real. Whether it's real or not, what do you guys think? No, I don't give a shit about that. I don't need attention for that. And that's probably why I'll never have several thousand followers with respect to Flightcast or whatever, but I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly fine with that because I don't give a shit in that regard. I'm not going to spoil people for the sake of engagement. I'm not going to throw stuff out there that people don't want to see until official word pops up just because I want to stoke a conversation and get the discourse going. There are other ways to get discourse going, like everything that I've talked about in this particular episode. And what do you know? I haven't dropped a single spoiler. I've only told you what you already know, that there are Supergirl set photos flying out there. I haven't told you what they look like, and that there is a alleged photo of what Robert Downey Jr. is going to look like as Dr. Doom. Alleged, I don't think it's real. I'm pretty certain that it isn't. But in the event that it is, it's a spoiler. I'm not going to describe it to you. So when the time comes and those looks are officially released for both Supergirl and Doctor Doom, we will have discussions about them. We will most certainly talk about them. And at that point, we can have a very healthy and logical discourse about what DC Studios and Marvel Studios has officially released to us without it being an actual spoiler and or outright lie. So, hey, I realize that it's asking fans to be patient. And I realize that that can be an extremely difficult proposition. But you know what? I would rather be patient and see it as it was intended than be impatient and argue over some blurry shit that may or may not be real. That's just how I roll with respect to that. And I hope that most of you agree with that. Maybe a few of you don't. But either way, I'm not sharing spoilers. And that's what set photos are. Spoilers. This is my PSA, once again, for how set photos are spoilers. I don't share them. Never will. I hope you don't either. I think that's enough ranting for one episode of the Flightcast, so that is going to do it for this particular episode. Thank you so much for listening to this show. Thank you so much for supporting theflightcast.com. If you have any thoughts about anything that I talked about in this particular episode, and I'm sure most of you do, if you have any thoughts with respect to the Ben Fritz piece about theaters, or about original movies not selling, and if you have any thoughts about this chicken jockey ridiculousness and the privilege therein, and Jared Hess's stupid-ass comments, and if you have any thoughts with respect to the set photos being spoilers and or lies in that regard, you know where to find me on Threads and Instagram at The Flightcast, on BLUESKY at Flightcast. There's also the Flightcast Facebook page. There is the Flightcast YouTube page underneath the post for which this particular episode will be posted. And of course, I can be reached by email at ray@theflightcast.com. Don't forget, we got the final episode of Daredevil Born Again Season 1 that we're talking about on Flightbox on Wednesday. We got Friday Flight on Friday. The deadline for feedback for that will be noon Eastern Daylight Time on that Friday. And this weekend, look out for a review of Sinners on Flight Review. in addition to the other flight review that I'm going to post on Patreon that has to do with a certain anniversary garnering a musical figure that is near and dear to my heart and many others in a movie of theirs that I will be watching as well this upcoming weekend. But until all of that, take care, stay safe out there, and I will see you all next time. Take it easy.